Hey everyone, welcome back to the Song Diary. This is episode number 4. My name is Mason Blue. I'm a pop music producer based in London. In this episode, I want to talk to you about a song I produced for the artist called Jayden Amara, and the song is called It's Not Mutual. It's a dream pop record all about romantic vibes. Think 13 Reasons Why, Love Victor, all these nice TV shows. So this is what the song sounds like. So I wanted this song to feel very conversational and quite introspective, especially in the verses. I needed to tell the story of the song essentially, because that's the main focus of this song in my opinion, just because it's so sentimental in a way. That's why I wanted the drums to be super stripped down in the verses. That's why I've got just this snare and toms and hits in the first verse. The snare basically sounds like this. And if you think about it, it's like a little clock type snare. If I remove all the processing, it sounds like this. I've tuned it down a little bit and I've made it quite lo-fi sounding, high passed until 378 hertz and low passed until 6,300 hertz, and I've made it quite wet as well. And then just because we haven't got a kick and defined snare playing here, we've got toms layered with hits just to carry on the groove. And they're there essentially to create common response type of thing, just because I wanted to get this sort of sense of impactful tribal drums, but they're quite ambient and very much in the background. And what's interesting about the toms here is we've got a Pan Man by Sound Toys that basically creates a very live feel to the toms by making them go from one side to the other as if a real drummer played them, which to me was super important. And then I've given them some extra harmonics in the top end with thermal, which if you have watched the previous episodes, I absolutely adore. Then we've got the SSLG channel just to make them slightly warmer. And last but not least, I've given them some reverb, which is the smooth play by Valhalla Vintage Verb. Then we go to a pre-chorus, and for this one I slowly wanted to start opening up the track and to get some sort of sense of momentum. That's why I've introduced the filtered kick here. And I've kept it quite dry just because I wanted it to still maintain that introspective feel and not to take it to a wishy-washy place, so it's very forward in the mix. I've got a little hit going on again. And it's more of like an accentuating type of hit, just to say, okay, we're going somewhere with this pre-chorus. I've got some wood blocks in here just to enhance the beat further by adding some ear candy. Before we go into the chorus, we've got a tom fill that I wanted to have just to create a little transition from the pre-chorus into the chorus, and that's why I've got this. And we're taking it to the chorus. We got the main beat happening here. We've got the kick, snare, and some extra percussion. Let's start with the kick and snare. And what's interesting about this beat is that I've got hits that are not playing alongside the kick all the time, but they're basically enhancing the strong beats in the groove, which to me was super important because I wanted to create this sort of pulsation in the beat. Ta, pa, pa, pa. And I found a way to enhance this through the hit. And there we have hi-hats and some percussion. And what's interesting to mention here is that we've got the main groove of the hi-hats, which is this. and it's sidechain, like it's pulsing with the kick. But then we've got the textured hi-hat, which basically plays 30-second notes, which is kind of like a hip-hop inspiration in this song, but I thought we added extra movement, especially in the chorus. And they both are panned left and right just to create more of a stereo field. And for this second hi-hat, which is the textured hi-hat, I've added a little bit of flanger. First of all, to separate it from the first hi-hat, and second of all, to create a bit more of a different sort of timbre for the whole thing, to make it a bit more sonically interesting. And I've got a little bit of reverb going on these hi-hats, again, just to put them in the space a bit more. And then we've got the crash just to accentuate the beginning of the chorus. And this is what we've got all together. Then with the second verse, we maintain the same beat from the chorus, but we strip it down a little bit. We remove the hi-hats just to tone down the energy a bit so we can build it back up after that. And then in the second pre-chorus, we've got the filtered kick from the first pre-chorus, but this time I decided to make it play 4 on the floor just to have this constant groove to keep us going throughout the track. And then in the second half of the pre-chorus, we've got a conga sound, which without any processing sounds like this. But with the added effects, it sounds like this. I wanted to make super lo-fi, super subdued, just to be layered with the kick and to create more of an ear candy rather than, okay, this is an actual snare that's playing here. So it's got quite a lot of EQ. As you can tell, it's got a little bit of compression just to tame and to blend it a bit more with everything, and a little bit of multiband to remove any boxiness from the sound and just to make it quite small sounding, which is helped by the reverb, which is quite a lot in this particular case. And then when we go to the middle 8, everything strips down and it's basically keys and the vocals. But then in the second half of the bridge, we've got the 4 on the floor kick, which is actually the main kick without being filtered. And we've got some toms that actually sustaining the groove by adding a bit more of movement to it. And I've got some hi-hats that are playing offbeat notes. And then the snare coming in. And I wanted this snare to feel quite big and quite reverberant, just because I wanted the song to have this sort of space. Like I wanted to put in a big space as if she was singing in a cathedral. And then we've got some snare and claps introducing a little bit of a fill, which was like pa pa pa. And then before the last chorus, we've got the toms. And then what's interesting here is I wanted to have a different part of the beat in this last chorus, just to like switch it up a little bit so it doesn't sound the same all the time. And that's when I added this halftime beat. And then we take it back into the chorus. So next up, we've got our bass, and starting with the first verse, I wanted to have a very dark bass lead sound. And I, as a producer, I'm really inspired by artists such as TateMcRae, The Weeknd, and producers such as Max Martin, Benny Blanco, Ian Kirkpatrick. And what I like about songs by TateMcRae and The Weeknd, for example, is the fact they've got dark bass lead sounds. And I thought something like that could be really, really fitting for this particular track and the verses. So check this out. And the original sound basically sounds like this. It's a bit rougher, it's a bit more present, but I wanted to make him more muffled and kind of hidden, but you still feel it. Then we've got that EQ, which filters it quite a lot, and it's low pass until 238 hertz. we got thermal just to bring some of the resonances in the bass lead from what we can get from it. And then the bass lead is sidechained to the kick, which happens in the second verse. And I've added a little bit of saturation to it just to tame any inconsistencies in the sound and just to warm it up a bit more. Then when we go to the pre-chorus, we've got this moving bass up. And this is a layered sound. It's made of two different sounds. The first one is this. And then the second one is that one. So the first one is basically the movement of the bass, what you hear, all the transients are there, but the second one is the meat and potatoes of the sound because it makes it beefier and it fills up the sonic spectrum more. And that's accompanied by the fact it's doubled by the doubler 2 by waves. It's made more stereo and it's filtered out, as you can tell, so there's not a lot of low frequencies happening there. It's more to accompany the main sound, and altogether they sound like this. And in the context of everything at the moment, we've got that. As you can tell, they create a lot of movement, which is super important for this part, just because we haven't got a lot of instruments playing, so we need to use less tools to create a bigger impact. And this is the main purpose of this section. And then when we go to the chorus, I've introduced an 808 sound, and I've used a plugin called Subdivine, which I discovered thanks to a fellow producer. And what I like about this plugin is the fact that you can control your basses to a very granular stage, and you can control the textures of the sounds. You can control how much drive, how present you want them to sound, how distorted, what textures you need in them, and then you can control the envelope. And then last but not least, we've got the glide feature, which creates more movement if you want to create octave glides or other interval glides between your notes, which I absolutely adore when I produce music. And it's a nice touch to add in between sections, to go from one section to the other, or just to create more interest in your bass essentially. And this is what the chorus bass sounds like. And what I've got on this bass is sidechain to the kick via H comp. We've got channel EQ, cut some frequencies at around 100 hertz just to make more room for the kick. I've added thermal just to enhance the upper resonances in the sound to make it cut through speakers more. And I've added the radiator by Sound Toys just because I really like the harmonics it adds to sounds without changing the sound too much. It basically enhances it. And I've increased the bass knob a bit more here, and I've decreased the treble just because I wanted to get a bit more bass from the 808. And last but not least, I've saturated a little bit with the Saturn 2, and I've used the warm tube just because the tube saturator works better for drums and bass. And this is the chorus. Then we're going into the second verse. We've got the bass lead from before. And again, it's sidechained to the kick just because we want it to duck in and out of a kick sway. And that's the bass. Then we're going into our melodic instruments. I wanted this song to start very dreamy and to introduce an element of like etherealness. So that's why I've got these keys here. They kind of gave me this sort of nostalgic feel, and I was like, ooh, this making me feel something. And we've got the guitar, which is kind of like the main hook for the intro. And I wanted to have a very punchy entry for the song. That's why I wanted to introduce a little impact in there, which again is super ambient, and I have pitched it down. If you listen to the original one, it sounds like this. And I just pitched a little bit and filtered a little bit with the EQ. And then we have a reverse vocal just to take us to the verse. And in the verse, we've got this very lush pad. And this pad is super stereo just because we haven't got a lot of instruments, and I wanted it to soar. I wanted this to be the main focus of the verse alongside the guitar from the intro. And then we've got a vocal sample which I took from Cymatics. Shout out to Cymatics for making such dope samples. And then we've got this little vocal sample that sounded like this. And I manipulated it by changing the melody sang and added a little alto boy just to turn it down an octave, tune it down an octave. Sidechained it with Kickstart and did some EQ magic and added quite a lot of reverb. I've used the reverb played by Alteria, which I absolutely adore. Definitely recommend you guys check it out. It's such a nice organic plate reverb. And this is what we got for the verse. Then when we get to the pre-chorus, we've got this bouncy dark lead. And if you remember from the previous section where we talked about bass, the dark lead is basically layering the bass. So it's playing the same rhythm as the bass, but it's filling the lower to upper mid frequencies essentially. So all together, they create this beautiful layered sound. And then we got a filtered pad. And I wanted to add like a ear candy in there, just like sometimes I like random sounds in productions, and people ask me, why did you add this? And sometimes my answer is, I don't know, it just sounded good at the time of producing the song and I decided to go with it. And this is the perfect example in this section. It's super random sounds, like I've no idea what the sound is. I just liked it and I was like, do you know what? Let's put it in. And then we got a little transition vox that sounds like that. Just to take us into the second half of the pre-chorus. And we're coming to my favorite sound in the pre-chorus just because I thought it really elevated the section. And it's just an ambient key sound. When I came up with this line, I just thought it was telling its own story in the context of the main one we're telling with the song, and it really complemented Jayden's vocals. When we finished with the pre-chorus, I wanted to have an instrument to take us into the chorus because I stripped the whole arrangement down and we didn't have a lot of stuff going on, so that's why I added this transition section. And it takes us into the chorus. In the chorus, first of all, we've got this lead. And if you remember from the previous section where we talked about drums, we had the hits that were playing the strong beats of the groove and they were accentuating them more, so it created more of an impact. So this chorus lead is essentially doing the same thing by playing the chords and again filling the upper frequencies by creating a bigger sound, and it creates more momentum. And what I've done with it's actually quite a lot. It's side chained to the kick just because I wanted to dip in and out with the kick. I've EQ'd it just to make room for other things to shine through, and then I've added a doubler too just because I wanted it to feel big. I didn't want the chorus to feel too busy instruments wise, hence why I needed to work with what I had in a particular moment. Then kickstart, and just to complement the compressor from before and to tidy up the sound so it doesn't drag on for too long. Thermal, just to introduce upper harmonics in the sound and to kind of distort a little bit, to sweeten it up. Then I've got effects rack again, just with the radiator to bring some more shimmer into the sound and to like warm it up to give it more of an organic feel. Pro Q3 just to tame some harshness from before and to let vocals shine through. And I've toned down the upper register a bit just because I didn't want it to feel too harsh when I listened to the song on different speakers or earphones. another kickstart on a different setting, just because I really liked the spice it added to the whole sound. It's not a lot, it's pretty much halfway through, so it doesn't do it too much. And then last but not least, I've saturated the sound a little bit, so that's when we had this. And then we have the plucks. And as you can hear, the plucks are not too bright, they're not too much in your face, but what they're doing is they're actually creating a sub rhythm to the main rhythm, because they are playing like 30-second notes, and they're making everything feel faster when it's not too fast. And again, I've doubled these, I've made them more stereo with the doubler by waves. I've added a little bit of kickstart to them and filtered them with the EQ and given them a little bit of reverb, just to put them in a certain space. And then we have these plucks that I absolutely adore, just because I wanted to make this chorus all about kind of response. So the plucks are basically playing a response line to the main thing. And then just before to go to the second half of the chorus, I'm layering these plucks with another lead. And it adds this anthemic feel I wanted to get for the chorus. When I started producing the chorus, I wanted the chorus to feel very uplifting, very empowering, like an anthem, just because the chorus basically talks about her overcoming the problems they had in the relationship, and she knows it's not mutual anymore, but she's ready to move on and to get on with her life and to become a better person after this relationship. So I wanted the chorus to reflect that in the sounds and in the whole feel of it. Then in the second verse, when I stripped the whole beat down to kick and snare, I wanted to have another instrument that carried on with the groove, and that's when I have these arps. And it's kind of giving me a bit of a synthwave feel, which I absolutely adore. I'm obsessed with 80s music, so any chance for me to incorporate my little love, actually quite a big love for 80s music, I get it going in there. So that's why I've added these arps, and I've given them a bit of saturation in there, and I've put them to one side just so they don't get in the way of other things. And then in the second pre-chorus, we've got similar instruments to the first time, but this time I've added these extra plucks. And they feel quite roomy in a way, but not too reverberant, which was important to me, just because they're basically a layer. I've layered the same sound, I've layered the same melody from before without obstructing other sounds, just because I wanted to make the whole thing grow as the song grows. And that's why I've added them here. I've filtered them quite a lot, again, just to get out of the way of other instruments. I've given them some movement with a pan man. They're basically going left and right and create that little oral movement when you listen to the song. And then I've added some distortion with the decapitator, some extra shimmer with the reso bite setting from thermal, and last but not least, you guessed it right, kickstart. Okay, and this is what we've got here. Then we go into the chorus. We've got this synth that I made myself, and it basically uses a lot of portamento in it. So it goes, and it basically takes us into the chorus. And we go into the chorus. And then here I've got another layer that supports the previous keys from last time, and it sounds like this. And it basically plays with these guys. And again, it just makes the whole thing grow more as the song progresses. And then we're going into the middle 8, and here everything is super minimal, because again, I wanted to bring the energy down, so we take a little breath with this part, and I just have the guitar from the intro and the same pluck sound from the chorus, but playing more of a texture here. Check this out. Yeah, it's super minimal. And then we've got a little vocal loop here. And then we're going into the chorus. Perfect. Then, just before we get into the vocals, let me walk you through some effects that I've got here. I've got some Foley effects in a verse. Some Foley stuff, super minimal. You don't hear it a lot, but you feel it. Again, it's a texture. I've got some noise. And what's cool about this noise sound is it's super short and it's got a tremolator, so it makes it super like stuttery. And that's what I wanted in there, just to create some tension with this section, that we're going somewhere, we're moving. And it's such a subtle tension feature, but I think it adds so much to it because less is more. And then we've got a reverse effects here, followed by the impact. And altogether we got this. I got a little chant. Yeah. Just little things, little ear candy just to spice things up and to make it more interesting. So last but not least, we've got the vocals. When it comes to lead vocal, I wanted it to feel super conversational and intimate. And I remember when we started working on the recording, I said to Jayden that I wanted it to feel super conversational and effortless, as if she was basically talking to someone in front of her. We just wanted to embody that introspective feeling of the song, and ultimately one of the vocals to be crisp and ambient in the mix. So for that purpose, I started with the Pro Key 3 just to clear up some low end frequencies to give a high pass up into 172 hertz, and I've cleared some frequencies here with the notches and some shelving just make it a bit more balanced across the frequency range. Then I've got some vocal rides on it just to balance the dynamic range of the song and reduce any peaks and dips, so it all sounds relatively linear throughout the song. Then I've got the compressor just doing some gentle compression. This is just to tame the loudest parts of the vocal recording so we don't have any imbalances. Then I've got the Pro Key 3 bringing up some 2 to 5 kilohertz frequencies and some extra sizzle in the 12k kilohertz range. Then I've got the actual compressor that allows the vocal to be a bit more compressed and blended with the rest of the song for the final product. Then I've got Pro DS, which is the de-esser to tame some sibilance from the recording. Pro MB, which basically works in the 2 to 500 hertz range, and this is just to clear up any mud from the recording. Saturn 2 just to saturate the vocals and make them slightly warmer, slightly more analog. And last but not least, I've got some delay and reverb. The delay is Valhalla delay set to quarter note and adjusted accordingly. And then I've got Valhalla vintage verb, smooth play, not too wet. I just wanted it to still be ambient but not to wash the vocal in reverb, so it's set to 1.90 seconds. And this is what the vocal sounds like.
We don't care for each other. We got no regrets, replacing our love with stone hearts.
So super ambient, super ethereal, which is what I wanted for the vocal. And I was thinking of artists like TateMcRae, The Weeknd when I was producing this vocal, and I was kind of like trying to put it in that sort of space. Then we've got the backing vocals. What I've got here is EQ similar to the lead vocals, some compression just to tame the vocals. Then I've got the Pro Key 3 again just to bring up the main speaking frequencies in the backing vocals, and then I've reduced the 2 to 5 kilohertz range just to allow the lead vocal to cut through more. And then I've got the SSLG channel. This one is essentially there for some extra compression just to make the backing vocals a bit more analog sounding and slightly different tonally to the lead vocal. Then I've got the Pro DS, which is the, again, DS to attain the sibilance. I've got some saturation. And last but not least, I remember listening to some of Ariana Grande's older songs where the backing vocals would sound quite chorusy. And I really liked what Max Martin's done with these vocals, and it's something that I learned from him. And I thought to myself, do you know what? Let's try this in this song. And I apply the chorus to the backing vocals just to separate them a bit more from the lead vocal. But again, it really beefs him up because he allows the overall product to sound bigger just because it's tonally different. And they've got some delay again, reverb, again, different type of reverb just to add a different color to the backing vocals and create more separation. And then we've got the channel EQ just to cut some of the lower frequencies in the delay. And this is what the backing vocals sound like.
We both know it's not mutual.
Beautiful, super beautiful, and it creates such a nice symbiosis between the lead and them. Check this out.
We both know it's not mutual. It don't hurt me, so don't be thinking.
So good. And last but not least, we've got ad-libs. Again, I wanted the ad-libs to be even more ambient than the lead vocal, so that's why I've added a bit more reverb to them. They've got, again, delay set to quarter note delay and vintage verb, Valhalla. And this is what they sound like.
So fast, so fast.
And last but not least, I've got these intro vocals. So basically, when I started working on the song, I knew I wanted to have opening vocals just because I wanted the song to work for sync as well. And I remember watching shows like Love Victor, 13 Reasons Why, and I really noticed some of the songs that had these opening vocals that were just ad-lib vocals, like ahs or oohs, no words, and it works so well for sync just because you can use that by itself, and it's such a nice supporting ad-lib for any scene, just because it doesn't interfere with the dialogue on screen or any important bits they're doing there. So that's why I really wanted to add it, and these are the vocals I'm talking about. Super ethereal, and they're basically sung by me. They're quite breathy, super light. I just wanted them to feel like angelic vocals. And then all the vocals are going to a vocal sum bus, essentially. I've cut a bit more of the frequencies there just to allow everything to blend a bit more, giving them a bit more shimmer via the OTT plugin. And then I've got SLG channel, and this one I've predominantly used just to tame some of the upper end of the vocal, so I reduced some of the harshness. And I've got the low pass filter engaged, and some of the high pass filter is working too. Again, this is just to shape the overall sound of the vocals a bit more. And last but not least, I've got saturation just to glue everything together a bit more. Okay, and this is what the song sounds like in the end.
We both know it's not mutual. It don't hurt me, so don't be thinking. I don't know, it's not mutual. It don't hurt me, so it's not mutual. Did it happen?
Hi there, thank you so much for hanging around and watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe and show me your support. Thank you.